right, welcome to Now This Is Podcasting. If you're here, it means hopefully you got through part 1 of our Interstellar review and you're excited for more. So I hope you enjoy part 2 of our review. This is going to cover mostly just what goes on in space, the whole crew, kind of their exploration to these other planets. And we'll just kind of catch up and follow the narrative from there. So again, thanks for joining us for part 2 of our Interstellar review. Cooper's in space with the crew now. He's with Doyle.
Wes Bentley,
that's it. And can you say this guy's name? I feel like I'm going to butcher it.
I'll give it a go.
Romilly?
Yeah, David Gassi.
Okay. I was going to say like Gaiassi. Gaiassi, I don't know.
Probably, possibly, but it looks more like Gya.
Okay, that's fine. I wanted to let you have a go at it.
Yeah, I'll take on all of the criticism.
Yeah. And then Anne Hathaway's character, Dr. Brand. So that's your crew.
Amelia, too.
Yeah.
Just in case we want to, like, there's Professor Brand and Dr. Brand. So Amelia, and his name is actually John in the credits. Not that it matters. I'm just going to call him the Professor anyways.
Yeah, I think they just always refer to him as Professor Brand or Dr. Brand. So to me, it's like,
yeah,
she's almost never referred to as Amelia. It's only by Professor Brand is the only one who refers to her as Amelia.
Yeah, Coop's first name is actually Joseph.
Yeah, which is... I found that out when I kind of read the notes that you have on this, because I don't know that I ever looked it up or cared. He's just always called Cooper in this.
It's not. Yeah, it's literally. It's never stated.
Yeah.
So
I know it's his last name. Like I knew that. Like, which is what's weird. Later, Tom has a son and he wants to name him Coop. He wants to name him Cooper. I was like, so he'd be Cooper.
I think they're just calling him by his last name.
No. They want his first name is Coop. It's literally Coop Cooper.
Are you serious?
Yeah. He's a farmer, so I'm giving him like obviously you name a child that. I can see that being your creative limit, but
that's a good way to put it.
Jesus Christ!
But that's why I thought that was weird. He's like, oh, we were gonna call him Coop, but his wife says no.
I can't believe he went through one kid and it was like it still hung with him. God, we really got to name this next one Coop. It's just like it just flows off the tongue, don't it?
Yeah.
Coop Cooper.
Coop Cooper.
Yeah. So I like when they get to space. And this is kind of the first time we haven't talked about the score a ton, except that we like it. This is the first time that I think the score, it's such a huge element within the scene. It's when they're going to take the ship that they are on and dock it with the Endurance. And Doyle is at the controls to dock it to the ship, and this theme starts playing. And the theme appears again in the film during a later docking scene when Matt Damon's character is trying to dock. And then it kind of gets really ramped up. But I love how they use the score in this and when it reappears, it's like it's telling this story. And I don't know if you guys noticed that. Like I love that about this movie. It feels like these different elements within the score reappear when there's like kind of a similar situation going on. And I love that. This is kind of the first time I think the score is really involved in the scene.
Yeah, when they take certain refrains and then they put them in other places to modulate the tension with different instrumentation or a different tempo, but still within the same musical idea.
Yeah,
and I love it when the phrase is something as interesting as what's happening here. I love the score and that it happens so many other places. I skip most of the songs until I get to the one main the Stay song.
Yeah, there's
so strong.
Yeah.
I love too, like, so the score there, and then this is where the cinematography really opens up, and we get the full effect of the IMAX and the human insignificance on a cosmic canvas, where we have the Endurance passing in front of Saturn, and
I love that. I love that scene, and then it's so cool because it's intercut with the Cooper's given Romilly his headphones, and he's listening to kind of like rainforest sounds.
And it contrasting human experience, and I feel like I say that a lot. I got to come up with some more synonyms for what this is, but it's like it's the insignificance of a tiny blue marble and what's happening on that being carried through space, and
that's a great Sagan reference.
Yeah, I mean this whole film has Sagan's fingerprints all over it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I love, and that's why eventually, like when we get more towards the end, why the emotions hit so hard for me is because the science is so plausible and so real. This is something that absolutely could happen. This is absolutely something that we could experience,
right?
And to give that kind of realism for what space will look like, what space will feel like for explorers.
You also get introduced to Case. He's on board the Endurance already. He's another pneumatic machine, just like TARS. And I like.
I think he's probably a Decepticon.
Yeah, I like that they're both different enough. Like they I mean, physically it's the same thing, but they both have like a different attitude and tone to their character, which I think is good, because I think you could just basically be like, oh, these just come off the line, and when we put them into service, and it's just a machine that does what we want. But they both have like a personality. They both have like robust personalities,
Which is
but
like
they're also
adjustable
different. Yeah.
by the other characters. Like when he's like, "What's your humor at?" 100%. He's like, "Bring it down to 75."
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, it seems like the under settings are obviously different here, and Tars is a more funny.
Yeah,
character.
that's what I'm saying. Is like, one of them, I think Case is like a more soft-spoken character, and TARS. I would think of the two of them. I think of him as like more the veteran one. Like he has a voice that he's willing to share a lot more than Case is. Like,
Yeah.
I think Case is more like he's there to like kind of serve a function, and he's fine with that. Like he knows he has a job, and he's willing to carry that out. And TARS is, I think, more involved.
Yeah, I do like how their voices are different too.
Yeah.
Because I don't care for that in, I'm sure it's going to be, it's practical in actual, real terms, but if it's a sci-fi movie, it's science fantasy. There's enough creative license that you should be able to put another voice in so that we have another character that we as an audience can enjoy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I said already, Bill Irwin voiced TARS, and then Josh Stewart voices Case. And yeah, I think they're both great. I love the interactions with TARS and Case. They're their own characters. They're not just like some automaton that's there to be commanded and told what to do.
Yeah, even though that's the way Coop treats them, there's a nice little subtext of machine sentience as it relates like to a human sentience. That's insignificant, but how much different are robots possibly if we allow them to be.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a cool bit. I like they've arrived at the spaceship, and they're gonna go down. They're heading to Saturn, which is where the wormhole is, but they basically go into like a cryo sleep because it's a 2-year journey. Because again, all the rules of space travel, like in physics, still apply. They don't just warp to it. It takes them a long time to get to Saturn, and so they go to sleep in these cool beds.
So scientifically speaking, I still don't get cryo sleep. Don't understand why it's in any movie. Don't understand how it would ever work.
I like that they gloss over in this
because like you're gonna get up and your muscles aren't gonna work at all because you haven't been using them for 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, they could design systems that basically vibrate your body.
Yeah, but they're sitting in pools of water, so that's not happening.
Yeah, have you never been in a hot tub?
Been in a hot tub.
Yeah, that part of the science
That's
not concerned. Kip was not concerned about that science.
Yeah.
This was more about physics, the science of physics, not biological science. So I was fine that I'm okay with them glossing over that, because I think the real kind of the showstopper is in terms of science is the physics surrounding this.
Yeah,
I don't really care
all
about
that's
the
great.
rest.
I'm just saying in every sci-fi movie where there's space travel, this always happens, and I still just don't see how it's a possibility.
Yeah,
yeah.
I get
It's just entered into the collective unconscious now.
You just
that
accept it.
We can go to sleep and live forever.
Yeah.
I love one day Walt Disney is going to be walking the Earth again, or Saturn. When we eventually exhaust all of the Earth's resources.
Yeah.
And Mickey Mouse is reborn on the rings of Saturn.
Oh my God! I hope Disney is gone by then.
Disney will never be gone.
It's gonna outlive all of us. I do love the look of the beds, though. I think you have these kind of in all these sci-fi movies that they step into some like kind of clear gizmo, and it has like a big window on it, and they get like flash frozen, and it has all these like wacky controls on the side,
or depressurized.
Yeah, and this one's kind of cool. It's almost like a coffin. It's like this sort of, and it's like
it reminds me of Vivarium when they are shoved in the body bags.
Yeah, it's a lot like it is a lot like that. And when they there's a point where they release someone from the cryosleep, and they kind of like pull it apart and unzip it it is like a body bag. It's kind of a chilling feeling to see them get into them.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense that these things are filled with water, since we are creatures that evolved from the ocean, and our bodies need the water. So to design a system that without explaining it, just being like obvious, like we all need water, so the stuff of life, as they talk about the kilometer tall waves.
I like so before Cooper gets into his cryosleep bed, he's having a conversation with TARS, the first scene where you kind of get this like really cool relationship that's built between Cooper and TARS, and he's asking him, to kind of explain his Dr. Brand's relationship with Wolf Edmonds, and he's like, I have a discretion setting as well, and he's like, but not a poker face, Slick. It's just great. So I guess that's how he talked on set to Bill Irwin. He would just Matthew McConaughey would just call him Slick, and he had all these like fun names for him. And so they'd just be hanging out on set and he'd be like, oh, what's up, Slick? and I love that got carried over into the movie. That's why he just seems like such a genuine guy, and this performance seems so genuine because it's kind of just Matthew McConaughey, but as a space pilot.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it does feel like his actual persona.
So that's kind of an issue I had with it, is that he just seems like he's Matthew McConaughey being an astronaut. I don't feel like he's playing a character particular. He's just being himself.
Gotcha. No, I that's a fair point. That's a totally fair point.
Yeah.
It does. Maybe he's not opening up his range as wide as he could because he's kind of just being all right
himself.
All right,
but I think that's why they cast him.
Yeah,
they wanted him to be Matthew McConaughey in this movie.
Yeah. I think he fits the role, but I also don't think I think he performs really well, and I think he does these great emotional scenes. But he is just kind of Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Which to me totally works. But so
Matthew McConaughey with that depth of emotion it's crazy. I mean, you feel because that's really it goes hand in hand with the score at that part, especially when in so many parts. We'll get to more of them when we get there, but we need to talk about the wormhole.
Before that, so one line that Anna Hathaway says to Cooper before they go into cryosleep is, she's like, "You're literally wasting your breath." Yeah, which I love that line.
Yeah. But I agree. We should move on to the wormhole.
Yeah, and so
this is my favorite visual part of the entire film.
Really, this is your favorite? I don't know about.
But
I don't know
even
about
beyond the black hole and the other planets, this is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I will change your mind about the black hole because the physics behind the black hole and why it looks the way it does is fascinating.
That's all fine.
So is the wormhole.
The wormhole is pretty, and it's just, it's stunning to look at. The way they made this, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. And
before you get into the science behind it, and I want you to explain it because I think you do a good job of it. Do you think that the science of that is explained well? Because they kind of do like you got to dumb down some of this stuff that way. Otherwise, this is just not digestible for a general audience. And they use a kind of a Romilly's explaining to Cooper, which Cooper should know this. Like, he's also like an engineer. He's a smart guy, but they need to have this exposition in that way the audience can understand. It's like, what's a circle in 3 dimensions? A sphere. And then he does that thing that is in like every movie with like a tesseract or a wormhole, and it's like he folds the paper in half and then pokes the pencil through it. It's this convention that kind of shows up whenever you want to explain wormholes and how you travel through them.
Yeah, because that's honestly the only way to explain it. You have to suppress one of the higher dimensions so that it is 2-dimensional.
Right.
Because otherwise it's not possible to understand how 4 dimensions work to us. Because the way dimensions work is they're at transverse angles to the vertices of the lower dimension. This makes no sense. But when you visualize how we create points and then lines, we make a line from the point, and then we make a square by going at transverse 90-degree angles to the ends of the line, right? And then we get a square. And then to get a cube, we go at 90 degrees to each of the vertices. Each point of the square is a vertex, and we go 90 degrees from there. So we go straight up, and we get a cube. Well, where do you go in 4 dimensions? You go at 90 degrees to the vertex, which is impossible in 3 dimensions.
Right.
So, which is why you get a tesseract. It's a cube within a cube. But the 4th dimension is this 4th spatial dimension. The 4th dimension in our universe is time, but they treat the 5th dimension as being the next spatial one. So I will talk about 4 spatial dimensions, but the 4th dimension is time. So in the 5th dimension is how this works is you have the wormhole as envisioned as a sphere, and the way this works is you have to think of our 3 dimensions as a brain, like a thin sheet of something. And then the 5th spatial dimension is this tightly curled, it's only about 1.5 millimeters thick space around our 3 dimensions. And what's happening is that is getting warped so that we travel around and through it, through another, so that we're another place in 3-dimensional space. So that's what's so weird about wormholes is they're not actually naturally occurring. They work by the math, but
My understanding is like it's theoretically possible, but it's like how could this occur?
so the only naturally occurring wormholes we think are possible exist as a quantum quirk, but they would there's something called quantum foam. The largest one that we could possibly that is possible would be 1/100th of a billionth the size of an atom's nucleus.
That's
So-
very, very small.
So those are the only naturally forming ones. The reason that's why they keep saying who put it there, because the only reason that you get a wormhole to stay stable and stay open is you have to have exotic matter that has negative mass. So in order to, which is possible, we have seen that in places very, very tiny amounts at quantum levels. If you collected enough of that, if an advanced species were able to harness enough of it, they could theoretically create a wormhole and hold it open through running it through with all of this exotic matter. So that's why it's like, who do we have to thank? Because we know that's the only way it would be there.
Right. We kind of glossed over that. We just talked about that there's this anomaly and there's this wormhole they're going to travel through, but we didn't really touch on. It's implied that someone put it there. They call them the bulk beings.
Yeah, and so the bulk is the fifth spatial dimension.
Right.
So the bulk is that thin layer that exists around our three-dimensional space. Yeah, it's very plausible that it could happen. It doesn't violate any of the laws. We just don't know if it's practical.
Right.
If the amount of resources required to harness it is even possible.
Yeah.
And so Kip actually said that there were a couple weeks where he spent trying to convince Christopher Nolan that he wanted to have characters travel faster than light.
Right.
And he was like, no, we can't do that. And finally he rewrote the script for that very reason, because it's
that.
like, and that I think that movie, if this were that we traveled faster than the speed of light and it's not within the framework of what we think is possible, there's like a weird quirk with black holes that it might be possible. But if any other context, it's not possible. So if they were to put this in, this movie instantly goes down.
That's what I'm talking about. It's like
several letter grades for me.
Put technology like stuff from the USS Enterprise into this movie, and it collapses in on itself. It doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the sound design for them going through the wormhole too. You hear like the ship is traveling, and there's all this rattling, and they're traveling through, and it's like, what do we do? And he's like, nothing. You just have to sit there. And hope you get through. So
because at that point they're in the bulk. So what's weird is that three-dimensional things can't exist in the fourth spatial dimension, which is why he's saying that the controls don't work.
Yeah.
Because it's not the same type of physics that we would associate with it.
They arrive in this new solar system, and they're going to decide which planet to go to. There's Dr. Miller has a planet. She's sending out data that is like promising. Dr. Mann is sending out a signal that says it's good to land here. This planet's habitable. And then Wolf Edmonds, he has like no signal.
No, he does.
No, he does have a signal.
Well, I guess his signal,
it started and then stopped.
Yeah, dropped
So
3 years prior.
So they're not sure if he thought it was good, and now it's no good, and that's why he shut the signal off. So they're trying to assess what planet they're going to go to. And I think what's kind of weird about this whole scene is it seems like there was no kind of hierarchy, like who's in charge.
Yeah, right.
Because like kind of Doyle's saying like we should go to this planet because it's like we're getting I think he describes it as like a very unambiguous signal that this is good to go. Like we're good to go here. This is a place that's habitable. This is exactly what we're looking for. The tension comes from how are they gonna go to that planet without spending too much time, because it's so close to Gargantua that the time dilation would be so significant that I think Cooper says he's like, there's no point in doing this mission if everyone's dead before we can figure it out.
Right.
And so they figure out.
So that's one thing I really do have an issue with this film is they don't tell them that Plan A isn't real, which absolutely compromises everything they're trying to do, because they act incredibly rash in situations to try to make Plan A work. They should absolutely know that Plan A is not something that is even in the works.
I agree with you, but to me, then it eliminates a ton of tension in the movie. It's just like, okay, they just travel there, and now they're just going to check out planets and then set up shop. That's it. Like, that's the end of your movie, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this movie ends as soon as they arrive in the solar system and pick a planet to land on. So the fact that Plan A, there is this kind of deception going on there, I think that makes causes a lot of tension in the film.
I actually think that there is a way that you could fix it, though. If they did everything and sent back quantum data to actually solve that, and then all of a sudden you do have a universe where it is possible to build these machines and a real Plan A does come out of it. But this is just more of a practical.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think for this story, I like that it has that kind of deception in it.
Yeah.
Again, everything in this movie works for me. But do you guys kind of get that feeling? It's like there's no who's in charge here, because like Cooper has ideas, Brand has ideas, Doyle has idea. Romilly is kind of the only one who's like seems like this objective observer, and he's just kind of gives his opinion, but he doesn't really like he doesn't want to like have something go one way or the other based on his decision. I think. I just thought it was weird. I think it's like why is no one seem to be in charge of this mission that is literally supposed to save humanity? Like why is no one? There's no leader here.
I did like it as a thematic choice because it's the whole of humanity rather than a hierarchy. But obviously, I think hierarchies work better in tense situations where snap decisions need to be made.
Yeah, and I think kind of Cooper ends up stepping into that role, which makes sense to me. I mean, he's your lead actor. You're going to have that character step in and take that role. It just is weird to me how he ends up. It doesn't seem, I don't know. He just starts doing it. There wasn't like a set plan. Which
there's by always, the virtue of his personality.
Yeah, there's always a commander in these. I mean, there's a commander on the ISS. There's a commander a part of every mission that ever leaves Earth. There's someone in charge of it, and so it's odd to me that there's no one in charge of this. So they decide they're going to land on Miller's planet, your water planet, and I want to talk about how the score I think is so involved in this scene. There's this like metronome sort of clicking sound added into the score, and every time that beat comes up, it represents a day passing on Earth. It's to me, it's almost like using time as a character within this scene to like constantly remind you that they're up against the clock here.
It's pressure. Pressure's involved here.
That's why I think this is such a tense scene. It's not only is it the waves and kind of this terribly dangerous situation there, and it's just kind of the presence of that sound is a constant reminder that time, you're on the clock. It just needs to get done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. I mean, that right there, creates a lot of pressure in the situation. They need to hurry up, and especially Cooper's character is super drawn to the time here because he wants to miss as less time as he can with his family. Right. And so that's why I think like in the ship he was like hesitant towards going to this planet in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he's kind of the one who argues against it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a great part of the scene as well.
Yeah, I love the fact that they brought time dilation into the film because time dilation is a fascinating quirk of special relativity that no one really brings up, and it's even weirder to think about how they've been time dilated ever since they left Earth, because they're experiencing gravity differently than they were on Earth. So already it was happening. So to bring in like these massive forces, like they talked about, like Miller's planet experienced 0.55 C, which is they were basically experiencing time at half the speed of light. Yeah. Whereas and that's relative to the Earth. So that's it's amazing to think about all of those differences. And then when they were parked in orbit, they were experiencing it at 0.3 C. Mm-hmm. So it's just wonderful. It's so cool to see. And then to make it like the tension, the conflict.
Do you think that the time dilation is explained well on this planet? The explanation kind of comes after they experience like there's a wave. They realize they're in a swell, like they're in between two waves. Yeah, and they initially think they're
mountains over there. And
I love that she thinks they're mountains.
That part's awesome.
They look like it when you first landed, like off in the horizon. Yeah. Oh, those are mountains. What a beautiful planet. Yeah. Clearly not dangerous at all.
So they realize that Miller isn't there. There's just like the wreckage of her ship, and so their next plan is like, okay, we need to get the data, the kind of the black box, and get it back to the Ranger, and then they're going to leave. Because like now they realize this big wave's coming, and Dr. Brand, she kind of gets stuck under some debris, and I think this is going to be your first really cool visual effects shot with is it Case on the planet with them, or is it TARS?
Yeah, Case.
It's Case. Yeah. And I think it's so cool. He becomes like kind of that pinwheel, just rolls and gets her.
Yeah.
That scene's really cool. They they had like an ATV with like these really thin wheels that way it could cut through the water, and then they had basically a kind of a big case spoke, practical like piece that they just kind of spun around.
That's neat. Yeah, that's really
it was
cool.
on, and it spun around in the water, and I think it works because then they use the water that it pushes in the actual scene, and then the visual effects artists also now they have a reference. There's something practical there that they can then base their digital version on, and that's why I think all this stuff, all the visual effects shot works so well. It doesn't ever seem out of place or janky. It's because they have this great reference because there's always something practical on set for them to base what they're doing off of.
Yeah.
And I just think it's really cool. I love these. I just love these pneumatic machines. They're so neat.
They're so cool.
Yeah, very cool.
The only other thing that quibble that I have about why they even went to Miller's planet in the first place is, when they realized that she'd only been there, like she'd crashed like hours before, that they would have seen that there is no data when they got through the wormhole. They would have seen that there's no way that they could know. They would just know water, So it would be very clear that.
I think they just misinterpret what the message is, and that's why they decide to land.
Yeah,
I think
small quibble for me.
Yeah, I just think the scene is so good that I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter how they get there. I just think it's so good that you need to find a way to get there, and I think it's done well enough.
Yeah.
Did you guys feel anything when Doyle dies?
Nope.
Were we
Not
supposed to?
one bit.
Were we supposed to? I don't know.
Yeah.
See, I don't either, and I'm sad that I don't because he's not a big enough part of this movie for it to matter.
He's almost like an absent character throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like he's there, but he's not.
Just a device.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a like I get much more connected to the other characters. Like Romley I really like his character.
Yeah. Even like by the time we get to Miller's planet, he's a character that it would have been sad to see die.
Yeah.
Whereas with Doyle, I was like,
and I think
it felt like he was sacrificial lamb. Like
that's kind of why he was
her.
there, was to die.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of him being in
Like
the
why
movie.
was he there in the first place?
I think the reason I'm also more connected to Romley is because there's that scene, like I said, we talked about earlier, where they're passing Saturn. He gives them the headphones, and Romley's like kind of having this sort of internal problem where he's like it's just a couple millimeters of like aluminum between us and nothing.
Yeah, I love the way he said it. It was so poetic. Just millimeters between us and nothing that wouldn't kill us within seconds or millions of miles.
Yeah. And I think that's probably why me and probably people watching, just your general audience, is going to gravitate more towards Romley as a likable character, or some of you care more about, is because they had this cool character moment with him. I think that Doyle's death could have mattered if there's a good character moment with him. There isn't.
There wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
it
I
also
think
would have felt weird. Like it would, if you gave one to Doyle, it would have felt like, okay, let's check off. It would have felt much like Vivarium. Like let's get all of our.
Gotta check this box off.
It's
So,
almost like
so
a-
you guys feel something about this character. I
Yeah.
think it's okay that he was just kind of there and then he just kind of died.
It almost seemed like a video game objective. It's like, talk to this person in the
Yeah.
town. Talk to this person
Yeah.
at the market.
I just skipped that one.
Yeah,
so
all
let's
of-
just keep going.
Yeah, exactly. All of Miller's planet was just a fetch quest, and like,
Yeah, right.
you were a part of the whole bigger plot the whole
Right.
time. You were just a piece.
I agree with you guys. I felt nothing when Doyle died.
Yeah.
So I think it almost works in reverse how they explain time dilation. Like
Yeah.
So that's different than time dilation. The reason it came up there is because Coop wanted to make up the time.
Right,
That's not possible because Romilly did talk about special relativity in terms of time dilation before they got there.
He says like, that's relativity, folks.
Yeah, exactly. I love like his matter of factness. Like we're all a room full of scientists. Why am I the only one that gets it?
And so this is another kind of Christopher Nolan problem where so they have this whole exposition between Brand and Cooper explaining like time might be something that like the bulk beings can use. It might be traveling forward in time is like going up a mountain, or traveling back in time would be walking into a valley, but for them it's not. And it's like, and then she even says to Cooper, she's like, you knew about relativity before you came on this mission. And it's like, that's just a big bit of dialogue that is just to tell the viewer to make sense. Like it's just dialogue put in that way we can understand what's going on.
I
There's
literally
like a
have a
little
note
bit-
here. It says time relativity. Yeah, it's in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
There is like a little bit. So like the way that so it's referred to as the Einstein-Rosen bridge. That's one version of the wormhole. And what it is it's actually singularities from black holes reaching out to each other. So that's kind of where that comes from. Why can't we just fly into a black hole and go somewhere? Because that's an idea for people that don't quite get all of the special, because there's an amazing amount of physics inside of a black hole that is so confusing, that someone that has a general sense of it could make it seem like it's plausible. And so that's why I'm okay with a little bit more explanation there in addition to it just being a plot device to help more casual viewers.
Yeah. It works fine. I can watch this and know what it is there for. It's not there to be like make these characters seem any smarter or advance the plot in any way. It's to me, it's kind of there to just explain to the viewer, in case you didn't catch what's happening here, this is how time works in this movie.
Yeah, and also how desperate Coop was. I think that's the other thing, is like he may or may not know the same amount of science behind special relativity or general relativity either as Amelia, but he wants to throw all of that away and just throw every possible
like idea out there, like how can I, because it's still a story about a man and a father and a daughter. It's like he's so concerned with this time he's going to lose with his daughter and his family and stuff. So it's like, he's like throwing anything at the wall hoping it sticks. And
because I don't care if I die now, because what's the point? Like the whole point was getting back.
Yeah,
right. So then they get back to the their main ship, and Romilly's awake, and it's been 23 years. I got the number right this time, so don't go like
23 years, 4 months, and
God damn it. Of course he's closer. Fuck me.
I just watched that part before I came over. I just needed to make sure I knew more about your own movie than you.
I do like
Although
that.
I feel like you knew more about The Fountain than I did. Like you were like, yeah, the piece of bread with the hair. And I was like, what?
Oh yeah.
Did we even watch the same movie?
We talked about it in our review of Green Knight, where it's like all you have to do is put some gray in a guy's beard.
Yeah,
you
it's
just
the same thing
instantly-
that happens here. Yeah, it's
Romilly's
a
got
little
a
bit more
little
straggly.
Yeah.
It's got some gray in it.
That's all you have to do, and you totally buy 23 years went by.
Right. He's got the same haircut even.
Yeah.
Which is like, I don't know. That's always something that's kind of funny to me. Is like, yeah, they all have the exact same hair.
So never grew, huh? It's 23 years.
23
I
years.
assume,
Where does it go?
I assume TARS can cut hair, and they just eject it into space. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
That's what I assume.
23 years of food supplies there too, as well.
Well, so he says he had because
A couple naps.
Brand says like,
Couple
why didn't you
stretches.
sleep? And he's like, I had a couple long stints.
Yeah.
But he's like, then I sort of thought I was wasting my life away. I think about that too, which is something we talked about in Up. Like, how is he going to survive there?
Yeah.
How's he going to run out of food? And to me, that's not the point of that movie. The point is not like what is his food supply, and that's the same in this.
Yeah.
Romilly's food rations is not a part of the narrative.
It's funny
So I don't
because
care.
that's like literally why they're leaving the planet, because they're running out of food.
Yeah, that's kind of poignant actually.
So all they're eating is corn here then.
Yeah, exactly. Literally.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
just like crates and crates of corn.
Yeah, it's just like, it makes me think of like it's a Family Guy episode, and they just like break off a piece of the wild. And they're like, corn.
I just like the idea of like astronauts. This is the best of humanity and in our greatest technology, and they're sitting around a table like chucking corn. Like, this like real old fashioned thing. That's a really funny thing scene in my head. And then it leads into, I think this is one of Matthew McConaughey's best scenes. It's a very emotional, visceral scene where they've received messages this whole time from Earth.
Yeah.
And he has 23 years of logs to go through of these messages from Tom, and because it's extra sad because Murph doesn't send him any until the very end. You find out Murph sends one, but I hate that this scene kind of became like a meme because it was like Matthew McConaughey,
Really?
yeah. So he's like crying. He's like at first it's like kind of tears of joy because Tom's like he's like doing well in school. He's found a girl. He gets married, they have a kid, and he's like happy. It's these like really emotional scene, and then it kind of switches when Tom talks about like his first son's died. Donald dies, the grandpa dies. He says we buried him out back next to Mom, and he's like, that's where we would bury you if you ever came back.
And Jesse.
Yeah, and yeah. And so then it changes to this very sad emotional scene, and then you start to realize like Tom keeps saying like Murph doesn't want to talk to you, and so it starts out kind of happy, and then it becomes very sad.
Very, very sad, yeah.
And when I say it became a meme,
it is. It's a very popular meme, yeah.
it was like when
Never seen
it was like those reaction videos where it's like, oh, so and so reacts to the Star Wars trailer, and it'll just be some streamer, some YouTube personality, It's just their reaction to it. It's the dumbest fucking thing ever. But it would be like Matthew McConaughey reacts to the Star Wars trailer, and it's like him crying, and it cuts to like Kylo Ren like pulling out the lightsaber with like the little cross guards on it, and he's like crying. Like, it's stuff like that. So I hate that scene became a meme because it's such an emotionally powerful scene, and I hate that it's like a joke now.
Yeah, it's a wonderful.
That's what the internet does, dude.
Yeah, exactly. It ruins. I mean, it makes good things out of bad things, and bad things out of good things.
Yeah,
it does things.
Yeah,
but
too many things.
To me, that's a really powerful scene. I wonder, like, what do you guys think? Do you buy into like the emotion?
Yeah, absolutely. There, I think like, the biggest home hitter there is for him. Like, there's still no message from Murph.
Mm-hmm.
After all this time, she still hasn't gotten over it, which is kind of like what I think he's feeling. But from Murph's standpoint, I feel like she feels guilty about not ever saying goodbye to him.
Yeah,
yeah,
because that's how that scene ends. Is it's just before Murph's message, and this is such a good part of the sound design of that scene.
Yeah,
that the score is building as his emotion is building, and then Tom tells him he says his wife is telling him it's time to say goodbye. It's time he needs to move on, and then the screen cuts to black, and right when the message cuts out, the score cuts out, and like it's Matthew McConaughey just alone. His thoughts and his emotions right now, and I think having the score cut out like amps that up even more. It's like you don't even have the music to help you maintain the feeling of the scene. It's like everything stops and you're just alone with him, and I think it's done so well.
I mean,
okay, I'm excited to hear what you had to say.
So I mean, I absolutely like get choked up whenever I see that scene because there is so much real emotion of him. Like, ignore everything that Casey Affleck is saying. It's inane. It's goofy. It's very like stock. Like, I'm a big boy now, Dad. Like type thing. Like it's not necessary. It's not deeply emotional. But then you just have like, I honestly just kind of wish that it was some images, or it's just always the whole thing. You know, not cutting back between the screen and Coop. It's just all a close up on Coop of him just weeping
with just like the audio behind it.
Yeah,
that would have been a good idea.
And kind of like as it kind of fades too, like it's kind of there in the background. Maybe you can pick out a couple words, but it's not necessary. The dialogue doesn't enhance anything.
Yeah, you're right, because the scene is about Cooper's emotions and him experiencing these messages. The scene has nothing to do with what Tom is saying.
Yeah,
like, he could have said anything. He could have talked about the last TV show he watched. His dialogue doesn't matter.
Yeah, he could be like, I changed deodorant brands today.
It's just the point that he's got the message. That's what McConaughey is.
I love that idea. We should do our own edit of that scene where we do Tom's dialogue, and it doesn't matter because the scene is just about Cooper and like his experience.
Flat tire in the truck today, Dad.
Yeah, exactly.
That would actually be better than what he says, because you have that scene at the beginning of the movie where he gets the flat tire. Yeah. And he's like, I'm sorry, Dad, I tried to take care of your truck. But that would actually have been an emotional thing that they could have put in, which would have made his dialogue actually make the scene better.
Yeah, or like every day he gets on like, so we ate some corn today.
But I made some cornbread.
Yeah.
Some popcorn. Yep.
Some corn walls. But and the reason I say all of that too is because when the music cuts out, because it's rather contrived, this whole situation is, when the music cuts out, the emotion goes with it for me too.
Really?
It's almost immediate. Like I'm like choking up like tears, like seeing all of that, and with him stretching out and the music stops. And that's when I started to realize that I don't like anything that's happening on Earth, because what's carrying everything on Earth is the music. It is not the actors. It's not the dialogue. It's not the situation. It's just a wonderfully, wonderfully crafted emotional score. And so when the music stops right there and then Murph comes up, it's a weird valley of emotion. You know, it's like it creates this vacuum, and then it tries to fill it back again. Like, oh, Murph is here. And then she's just, like she does like when she says like, now would be a really good time for you to come back.
I love
that gets me.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was necessary to modulate it like that. It felt uneven to me.
Okay. No, I understand where you're coming from. And like I said, like everything in this movie pretty much works for me, and that's why I like talking about it. I want to hear different perspectives on it.
Yeah,
I totally disagree with you. I think it's amazing to me. I love just like kind of the silence before Murph comes on the screen, and I like what she has to say. Like we were talking about how Tom's lines aren't really emotional. They're not the point. They don't carry that scene. Everything Murph says to me like kind of helps carry that scene. 'Cause she's like, you know what today is? Like, we're the same age. It's my birthday. And then she starts to cry. And that's when the line you brought up, she's like, it'd be really good if you came home now. And I like that she also brings up, she's like, you know, I haven't talked to you, and that's something I've lived with. It's like Jaden said, she does maybe feel some guilt and some sorrow that she didn't message earlier, but she's finally doing it now. And I think that part is very good. I get what you're saying, where it's like you have this emotion, it stops, and then you're supposed to feel emotional again because it's Murph on screen.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, I mean, really, it should be a more emotional shot, but it doesn't feel that way until like the last end, but it doesn't get as high as any of the moments with Tom.
Yeah.
And so, and honestly, like that right there, that's all I need to see of Jessica Chastain. I do not need to see any more of adult Murph.
Okay, well,
I want to get Topher, so.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I put him under the, for characters, I put him under the
antagonist, which is fucking insane, Calvin.
What?
Yeah, you didn't see that. I was like debating, like, does he deserve to be above Matt Damon? I feel like he does.
When I went through the notes that you sent out, I was scrolling through it, and then at the top of one of the pages, it just says "fucking Topher Grace," and I was like, I text you, I was like, I feel you, I get that so much. I do not understand why this character is in this at all. Like,
Absolutely, yeah.
And I saw Eric Foreman grew up and wanted to be.
I don't think Topher Grace should be in movies. He should not be on screen ever again, and I just don't think he has added anything to any film he's been in.
Yeah, he's really good as like a weird smarmy type guy, like it.
But he's supposed to be like a weird. He's supposed to be a weird smarmy guy in like when he plays Venom.
I hate that.
But he sucks.
He's Eddie Brock.
Yeah, he sucks. Oh my god.
Yeah, he doesn't play the.
Sam Raimi did not want Venom in that movie. He was forced to do it.
Yeah,
and that's why that movie fucking stunk.
Not surprising.
And that's why we never got Spider-Man 4. So.
You don't need to have there's like 3 bad guys in the movie. It's so much. That movie is.
And without
ridiculous.
him, it would have worked.
Yeah.
Great. I feel like. I mean, maybe James Franco could not have been so shitty too, but whatever.
Which is weird because I mean he's a fantastic actor too.
Yeah, I am okay with never seeing Topher Grace again. So it would be fine if he wasn't in this film. He doesn't add anything to anything he's in.
And he gets punched in the face. That part
which
was
is
pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
that's a great part in the movie.
Yeah,
I like to believe that the actor Topher Grace got hit in the face. That's what I like to believe.
Right? Yeah.
God, he's bad.
That's what's so sad is like he's really a caricature of himself when he gets into films, and and it just breaks every suspension of disbelief because it's not a character. It's like, who is this? Like, we know everything about him because his mannerisms are so unique.
He has the same hairstyle in every movie he's in. He's just the exact same person.
In the credits, his name is Getty.
Yeah.
Just call him Topher Grace because he's just being Topher Grace.
Yeah, exactly. I actually wrote that, Topher Grace as himself.
The difference between him and Matthew McConaughey is his on-screen presence, his charisma, the way he delivers lines is so impactful.
Yeah.
And so it's fine that he's kind of a caricature of himself. Yeah. Topher Grace has none of those qualities. So don't put him in your fucking movie.
Yeah. We also know that Matthew McConaughey can inhabit so many bodies and so many perspectives that what are we going to get out of here? Are we going to get farmer Matthew McConaughey with a little bit of Western Texas drawl,
right?
And or are we going to get Southern Matthew McConaughey, who's a bit of a gentleman? Are we going to get Northern McConaughey, who's a transplant and he's just getting used to the city and all of them city folk?
Yeah,
there's so many things that he can be while still maintaining a lot of his same mannerisms that Topher Grace doesn't understand who he is.
Yeah.
I don't understand
this movie like. McConaughey's an emotional Matthew McConaughey in this movie, which he's not in a lot of his other films.
Right.
Yeah. He's so human here.
Yep.
Okay, we checked a box for me. I wanted to have a shit on Topher Grace section, so
there'll be more.
I think so far we've nailed it.
Yeah. I'm not done.
I do not
so much
enjoy
resentment.
him in this movie. Okay, so anyway, McConaughey is now, he's had the he's seen the recording of Murph, and I actually like the way this scene's done. She reaches forward. This is from Matthew McConaughey's perspective. She reaches forward, shuts off the recording, and then it flips to now it's present day adult Jessica Chastain as Murph. And she's working for NASA. She's working with Professor Brand to kind of solve this gravity equation to figure out how they can get Plan A to work. Calvin's making a face. I feel like you don't like that switch, that scene.
No, I do actually like that as a stylistic thing. I just don't find it necessary.
I still don't understand how Michael Caine is still alive. How old is this dude at this point?
I think he was rather young when they started. I think he was probably in his 50s.
He looks old as shit.
Yeah, because I mean, he's like 60 something now, isn't he?
I'm actually not sure how old he is. I could find out, but I think that they do a kind of contrived way of making him seem old, because at first when you first are introduced to him, he's walking around and he's fine. He's showing Coop like the station they're on, and then when he's like 23 years later, they just put him in a wheelchair with like a blanket over him. They're like, okay, he's really old now.
Yeah,
it's kind of a goofy way to do it.
Okay,
I buy it enough. So.
Okay, get this. When they shot this, he was 80.
Yeah,
no
that's what
way.
I'm saying. It's like he's old as
He's
shit.
88 right now.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was that old.
I didn't either. He looks great for.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, he looks really good for 80. Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt about that.
I mean, he's still walking around like. I mean, his posture is great. I need to. I didn't know what his regimen is.
The films in which he's appeared have grossed over $7.8 billion worldwide. This guy's in bangers like nonstop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
and he has a distinctive South of London accent.
oh, there you go. Now you know where-
Now we know.
Wow, Michael Caine. Good for him. Yeah, you're right. I did not think he was 88 now, so this came out in 2004. So
2014.
Yeah. yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
So, wow, I didn't realize he was that old even during the filming of this.
I
yeah.
thought he was pretty old during the Dark Knight trilogy. I was like, this dude's got to be in the 70s. Which
Yeah.
He was. So
Yeah, he was.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. Good little Michael Caine bits. But yeah, I think it's maybe a little goofy how they make him even older. They're just like put him in a wheelchair. That's enough.
Yeah.
Which again, that speaks to why like these Christopher Nolan movies have the appearance of being smart, but it's just something really dumb. Put him in a wheelchair and now he's old.
Yeah, they should have started with someone who was a little bit. I mean, it's harder to de-age someone that's not through CGI. You know? They did that with Will Smith in a couple films, which is really weird.
Gemini Man.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to go the other direction,
Right.
and make things look older. Because I mean, we can throw some salt and pepper into that, and
Exactly, like we've been saying.
like Joel Edgerton, like that would have been a good character for this, because he also would have had an American accent.
I think the problem is Christopher Nolan.
But he wasn't in previous Christopher Nolan films.
Yeah,
So
he cast the same people in all of his movies. Michael Caine will be in. He'll be like in the grave, and
Is he in Tenet?
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
he'll be in the next movie that Christopher Nolan comes out with. If Michael Caine's passed, it'll just be like a shot of his gravestone. That way, Michael Caine is still in all of his movies.
Right.
Like,
And
Dan Anne Hathaway was in The Last Dark Knight.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
No, he has an ensemble that he likes to use for sure.
And most directors do. Same
Right.
thing with Ingmar Bergman, Tarkovsky, Hitchcock, all of them.
Yeah.
Even classically, like when you have someone that understands your workflow and you can get the things that you want out of an actor, you generally start to write pieces around them.
Right.
So
So you don't like adult Murph
At all.
portrayed by Jessica Chastain?
at all. So, and I would say it like this: she is only a plot device. All of her scenes are either useless, melodramatic, or uninteresting. Like this, like in addition to being a plot device, she doesn't even bring anything to the table. You know, she says things like, "You've been trying to solve this equation with one arm. No, both arms tied behind your back."
Like he's like, "Are you calling all my work?" What she call it? It's like recursive. It's nonsensical. He's like,
Yeah.
"Are you calling my life's work nonsensical?" Like that's what Michael Caine says.
Yeah,
afterward.
yeah, exactly. And it just makes me groan, because
I can agree that that character and that performance is not the best in the movie. That is probably the worst in the movie, besides Topher Grace. But I think that it has like I said, I love the setup and payoff in this movie. I love the setup of the watch and then the payoff with her at the end. And so to me, that kind of recovers that character to me, because I think you get the payoff at the end. So I can
Yeah.
agree that it's not an outstanding character, and Jessica Chastain is great in a lot of things. She's maybe not great in this one.
I just think the character is just necessary.
and that's all you
okay.
need to say, because then
I still agree with you. I think she should be in the movie.
Yeah.
yeah, but like then we don't have to have the dumbass car ride of her and Topher Grace, like saying like, "Oh, all of these people, where are they going? All of the dust." Blah, blah,
There's a
blah.
cool cameo.
Those are thoughts. They do
Who
not
is
need to
it?
be said.
There's a little girl in the back, like the bed of a truck, That's Christopher Nolan's daughter.
Oh, neat.
Oh,
I think it's
Nepotism at its best.
oh yeah,
Flora Nolan. That's her
yeah.
cameo.
Because that's actually what he's so secretive about all of his scripts. That's what he called the shooting for this was Flora something.
Oh, that's actually kind of sweet. Because again,
It's
this is a
father-daughter
father-daughter
movie, yeah.
That's kind of sweet. I like that.
Yeah, that is true. And then so he added 30 minutes of film time that didn't need to be there so that he could have his daughter have a cameo.
I think that your problem is more that the character is just bad, not that it's not necessary.
They're really bad. They're really bad, and they're given way too much screen time. That's really unnecessary. They're all, and then leading up to obviously, I think the scene that we hate the most, the corn burning scene.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
It's not because of the scene either. It's because of what's behind the scene.
It's both for me. That is the worst scene. It is.
We'll get into it. So now the crew's decided that they're gonna move on to Dr. Mann's planet, and there's this kind of the melodramatic scene in between that a lot of people have a problem with. It's kind of Anne Hathaway's big speech about how she thinks love is like a power that can transcend dimensions, and it's some kind of artifact that's a part of humanity that we carry with us, and it has a power of its own. And I get why people don't like this. I just think that the idea of like loving someone so much that it could have a strength and it has a power within like kind of our it's built into our humanity, because that you get that kind of sense of love that Cooper has for Murphy. So that idea is already built into the film. So I think that kind of bit of dialogue that Anne Hathaway has about love, I think it fits in the tone of the film. A lot of people have a problem with it because they're like, why are you even like, stop bringing this up. This is a science movie. But I think this film revolves around the love we have for each other.
Yeah, I just don't think it needs to be spelled out. And I think that's my issue with the scene.
Yeah. I don't think that she needs to say like, it's the only thing that transcends dimensions. Like, memories do. Like, there's so many things that you're making the same argument about a lot of things, but you could talk about reciprocal altruism being the thing that is what transcends dimensions.
I love that phrasing.
Yeah,
that's so eloquent. I love that.
Yeah, well,
that would, I mean, that might actually make more sense if they did that instead of love.
Yeah, exactly. It would make it more.
I don't want you to tear down my favorite movie, but I actually, the way you put that I think that makes a lot of sense.
And I think that is the point. Is we don't. It's love. Not only for the ones that we do know, but reciprocal altruism extends beyond ourselves into everything human, everything that has life. And when you start to balance all of these things together, like I absolutely agree with her. I think it's not necessarily the right way. I also think she has a really good argument. Like if it has better data, then we should go there,
Yeah.
Like I don't agree that just because man is the best one that they should go to his planet. They should have gone to Edmonds because this data was more promising. That seems fairly obvious. Because
and it has also to do that it's closer. And after they have that kind of argument, that debate where they decide they're going to go to Mann's planet, Dr. Brand, she's like, well, now you have a really important decision to make because you're factoring in our travel based on a return journey back home so that Cooper can go back and see Murph. She's like, you're going to have a tough decision to make if Dr. Mann's planet isn't any good because you're going to have to use the remaining fuel to go to Edmund's planet.
Yep.
And so I think that's such a good bit of tension.
But so the other thing that I do like about Amelia's speech is that she's already seen something that seemed to defy her idea of physics, her idea of humans and spatial beings. She had that handshake. There are things that seem to extend beyond what she understands. So if they've been wrong about all of their theory, there's some non-duality pseudoscience-y things that are that could explain what she's talking about. They're not explained here because they're not scientific and they're not included for that reason, but they're kind of plausible in a way if you rethink everything about the way physics works. And the reason why humans do the things we do isn't necessarily biological, but maybe it's higher consciousness and higher consciousnesses in higher dimensions exerting forces on us. And if that's the case, then it's even more plausible what she's saying. But the film doesn't give space for that type of discussion, so
Right.
it ends up being a little bit more melodramatic. So I wish there was more like some more like metaphysical stuff there for that reason, because she seems to be having a existential metaphysical crisis.
Right. I'm just glad that you guys aren't like straight up the scene blows. It makes no
No,
sense. I hate it because
I
I
think
don't
it
think
blows.
it's that bad. I understand the problems with it, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's just like straight up bad.
It's like I felt like I got a lot of the feelings like that she was describing in that scene just throughout the acting throughout the movie.
Right.
But she does a great job delivering on her acting. I don't think that Anne Hathaway does a bad job.
I don't
in this
either,
movie
yeah.
in for 1 second.
I don't. Yeah, there's a lot of criticism surrounding her.
I think she's one of
Yeah.
the world's greatest actresses, and
Yeah.
I don't think that this has any demeanor against that.
Yeah,
So,
I totally agree.
Yeah, and a wonderful laugh. Some very heartfelt laughs throughout the film that felt like they were just goofing around on set. Like,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
hey, we recorded that. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now they've decided they're going to Dr. Mann's planet, and I like that they kind of hype up Dr. Mann
Yeah.
prior to
Almost like a god.
And it
sacrifice
is
everything.
unknown that it's Matt Damon up until they wake him up. Correct?
I didn't know he was in this movie the
Yeah,
first time
which
I watched it. I had no idea he
I
was in
love
this
that
movie.
Matt Damon does this so much.
Mhm.
Like, and he does it in a lot of movies. Like, he's in Deadpool 2. People still have no fucking idea about that.
Isn't Brad Pitt in that one too?
Yeah, Brad Pitt's in that one for like 1 second.
Like 2 seconds.
But
he gets like electrocuted
yeah.
in times.
So he got paid a cup of coffee for that scene. That's
Really?
what Ryan Reynolds gave him.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
but in Deadpool 2, Matt Damon plays the fat dude sitting on the bed of the truck talking with the other guy when Cable shows up and steals their shit.
I have seen bits of that movie.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen that. I can't remember that scene, but that's
My problem with
I
Deadpool
love
2 is
it.
it's just Deadpool again. Like,
Yeah, I'm okay with there being millions of Deadpools.
Oh, really?
yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Deadpool.
I'm a
2. I did
huge
feel like
Ryan
it was
Reynolds-
different too.
Yeah.
yeah. Give me some more.
Yeah.
What is it? Just Friends. One
Yeah.
of the
Oh my
greatest,
God.
the greatest rom com
Yeah.
ever. Oh my
so
gosh.
I was watching Scrubs the other week, and it was during the time when that movie was coming out. And one episode, it's Amy Smart, and then the next episode, it's Ryan Reynolds. I was like, you guys are just promoting your fucking movie.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love everything about Ryan Reynolds' persona.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big fan of him.
You guys are real hype on him. I think he does some really crappy, like the new movie he's got coming out, Guy.
New
Oh,
guy,
yeah.
free guy.
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
free guy. I want to watch it so bad.
It
It's
looks-
probably gonna be terrible, but I
I
don't
think
care.
it looks awful.
yeah, and he's
The
also doing
Pikachu
that,
movie
like,
wasn't very good. Don't care.
yeah, I didn't see that one. And then what is it? The Assassin's Bodyguard.
Oh my God, that
Hitman's
looks
Bodyguard,
terrible.
Hitman's wife's bodyguard.
Yeah, that's. I guess I got the spirit of what the movie was.
Those are
I
so
wasn't even-
confusing. Like, because it's Hitman's Bodyguard, and then it just keeps going. It's like Hitman's wife's brothers, cousins, sisters. Like, those will be the sequels. Like,
Yeah.
they'll just be some other
And like,
relationship.
it's not my kind of movie or whatever, but I feel like it's very. I mean, it fits Ryan Reynolds what he does.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Anyways.
He's fine. I like him. He's fine. But
Back to Matt Damon.
so before they arrive at Dr. Mann's planet, Professor Brand is dying. He calls Murph to his like deathbed, and that's
Yeah.
when you get kind of the reveal that Plan A was never going to work. He's already figured out that they can't solve this kind of gravity equation. They can't figure out how to harness it, and Murph gets that realization that Plan A was never an option. It was contrived to get people to continue to work on something because like if you know you're going to die and there's no hope
gives
for
a
you,
shit?
then fuck it. You're
Yeah.
just going to live out the rest of your days doing whatever you
I'm
want.
gonna eat shitloads of corn
Yeah.
and drink corn liquor.
Yeah, you're going to drink that like corn vodka and like
Well,
it's-
and that's the thing. I think that's not necessarily the case. I think people still do work that like isn't necessarily. We work to survive.
I think you could find enough people to work for NASA to make this operation possible.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I still think it works in the context of this movie to be like to make that statement, be like, well, people are going to look out for themselves if they know there's no future for them.
Yeah.
If
And
they're not gonna put down or give the time to help us out if they know that they have no way out from
Which
it.
is
So,
crazy represented by Dr. Mann's character shortly after this.
yeah. So I love the setup of that. Go ahead, Calvin.
Yeah. So, well, what I was gonna say is too, like, if we did get rid of Chastain Murph, I think a really interesting way of bringing it up that there was no plan A is that it's just assumed, you know, that there was no plan A, and so man just talking about like, yep, so let's set up, like, we got all the embryos, and like, yeah, well, I gotta get, well, what about plan A, and like, what do you mean plan A? And like
That would be interesting.
yeah, that would be like a really like gut wrenching like
What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Like that would be like a scene you feel the air go out of the room. Like you're just like, what? Like especially like Cooper and Dr. Brand would be like,
yeah.
are you kidding? Like this is because Cooper doesn't go on this mission if he thinks there's no plan A.
Exactly. And I think you could have had like an amazing I mean you have Matt Damon right there to feel this awkward like, oh no, like I'm so sorry. Like there is absolutely there's just mounds and mounds of space to explore of emotional territory there that get kind of ruined with a really over dramatic you knew.
Yeah, and I think her best scenes probably only come when she's recording messages.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. Yeah.
Outside of that small room and that small screen she's on, she's not great in this, and the character's not great in this. Her best scenes are all like just these recordings.
Yeah.
She has this great cry where she's like, like she does this kind of
Yeah.
like stuttered breathing coming in, and it's so. I get amazed by actors sometimes when they can pull off something that feels so authentic. Because like I mean, it's almost like reminds me of like a child crying. Like it's so like a baby. It's like they're struggling to even get the breath in to continue crying. It's like this very visceral, emotional cry. And again, I think that's maybe why I give that Jessica Chastain's portrayal of Murph a lot of leeway, because I think she has a couple great scenes, and so that character is fine to me. And I think that part is so good. I love that cry she has. It feels so real.
Yeah. Are you overwhelmed, mother? But yeah, so and since it's all from Coop's perspective, you know, the whole film,
Right.
that's why they work the best.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
This
right.
is a movie about Dr.
That's why
Brand.
going back to the Earth,
Yeah.
like what you said earlier, the scenes are pretty lame because the whole movie has been through Coop's perspective, and now we're going to place it like, why should I care about this now?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, this is Murph, but this is a very different feeling Murph. She's
Yeah.
not the rebellious, fun Murph that crashes Grandpa's truck.
Yeah,
And
doesn't get the bolt cutters out. And
yeah,
Yeah.
she's
there's no
like,
sign.
by
There's
the
not really
books.
like any like showings of her intelligence either as adult Murph.
Yeah, just
well, I mean, she
just
likes
her like on
she
the
solves the
on
gravity thing, but
blackboard.
that's kind of just like a kind of blase scene.
Yeah.
You're right. They could have amped that up a little bit. So what I really like about the score and the way it's used in this, or the message is sent, but the crew is already on the ship leaving for Man's Planet, and that message plays, and this theme, this part of the score picks up during Professor Brand's death, and it continues to carry on into them then traveling into Dr. Man's Planet. And so I love that the score starts with this deception scene where basically there's no plan A. And it continues into Man's Planet where you then find out that Dr. Man is deceiving them. And I just think it's cool that theme carries on. It's like it's sort of like this hint that like this is also another you're about to
Bullshit.
be deceived again.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
I agree. This is, I think, this whole section with like Matt Damon in the movie is when the score is at its best.
And I love the
Absolutely.
thematic territory that they explore. You know, it's the dark side of reciprocal altruism, you
Right.
know, with the fact that we need to be connected to people. And when he's opened up out of his body bag and just starts
Crying,
weeping,
yeah.
and then that
it's a
he's like,
powerful scene.
So this is like honestly like perspective. Like, I'm not the biggest Matt Damon fan in the world, but this is my favorite like acting I've seen him do. Because every time you watch Matt Damon, he's a good dude, and he's a dude that you're kind of always like, okay, I got to root for this guy.
Yeah,
This
it's just
movie-
like kind of built into this kind of how we perceive
His
Matt
narrative
Damon.
of him. And so like I feel like Christopher Nolan used that to give the audience deception of who he is as well.
Yeah.
That's such a good
'Cause,
point
like
to
you
make.
see Matt Damon like, oh shit. So like we know that he's the savior now. Like we're good. We got Matt Damon now. We're
I like-
all good.
I like that when they first talk about Dr. Man when they're in that boardroom and they're talking about the
You can't
Lazarus
see his
missions.
picture.
They showed all the pictures on the wall of all the members of the Lazarus missions, and it's purposeful. I think that you not only to not show you that Matt Damon is in this movie, because I do think they use the kind of our collective unconscious opinion of Matt Damon to fill gaps in the character, and so we instantly have an attachment to him because people just like Matt Damon.
Yeah.
And so I like that it's very purposeful that you don't know it's we're going to see Matt Damon later in this movie.
Yeah.
I like that it shows all the people, and they talk about Dr. Man a lot, but they don't ever show
Like
him.
literally, like Michael Caine's head is right in the way of his picture.
Yeah,
You know?
I really like that.
I didn't notice that.
It's such a small subtle thing, and I just think it's really well done.
Because I was like, where's Matt Damon? Like on the wall. I was like, they're not showing him, huh?
After I'd seen it the first time, and when I went and watched it again, that's what I was looking for. I was like, because I did again. I when this movie came out, it was mostly just like it was just sci-fi and it was cool. I just love space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was going to see this regardless. I was not as I didn't research movies as much as I do now, and so I had no idea the cast for this. And I think there might have been leaks, and that is so like prominent now. There's all like set photos that get leaked and all these characters that
Try
show
to
up
stay
in
away
movies.
from him if you're a movie fan, honestly.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, that's why. That's why I continue to not look at it because it's like, okay.
I like that it's there because this information is able to access like later almost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, I don't want to ruin the movies for myself. And
But on second viewing, I was trying to figure out where
Yeah.
Matt Damon showed up. If it was ever like led on that it was Matt Damon
Yeah.
playing that character, and it's not. They do a good job of kind of not revealing it. And I think it's really good. And I totally agree with you, Calvin. That scene where he wakes up and cries and he's like, pray that, you never have to go through what I went through. It's like that you never need to understand the joy of seeing another human's face.
Yeah, and when he talks about the death of Kip, which I love, his name is Kip because I'm pretty sure that's
It's an obvious nod to Kip Thorne.
yeah.
I think
But I love how he says even you never know how truly you are alone until you don't even have that.
right. Which I think also speaks to how important like Tars and Case are. Because they're not just like dumb machines.
And
Like,
and I think
they are
that's what-
characters. And so when Dr. Mann loses Kip, it's like it's even more of a blow. Like not only does he not have a person to talk to, it's like now he doesn't even have like this sort of like a replication of a person to talk to. Like
Yeah, and
he
which
doesn't
is
even
what,
have that.
Yeah, and which is what Coop starts to realize, which is why he takes Tars with him at the end of the film because it's pushing the bounds of what reciprocal altruism is for all types of things.
Right.
Like what types of things can we extend love and care to, and even these things. We put ourselves into these things, and they're reflections of us as well. So
Right. So then Case, he relays the message from the Endurance talking about that Professor Brands passed away, and Murph then explains that there was no plan A. And I think this is another bit of Anne Hathaway acting really well, and it shows kind of this like a big shift in like the way her character starts to treat Coop. Is she grabs his face? She's like, I didn't know. She's like, what can I do? And I love the change in her character here. She's it's like this now they had this emotional attachment because now they're both deceived. Like they both didn't know that there was really no plan A. And so they're kind of sharing that kind of sorrow together.
Yeah, it's also weird thinking about the fact that there is no plan A and they sent one woman.
Right? This is more of
do
a
they not have the embryos on the?
yeah, but you still need a woman for the embryo to
That's
gestate.
fair. That's fair. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You're exactly right. Why is there not another woman a part of the crew? Just for like a redundancy, which NASA is very well known for its redundancies.
Yeah.
Like you don't leave Earth's orbit.
Yeah. You
And
sent
so-
3 men.
Yeah.
It's not like there wasn't enough room
Yeah.
for 2 women.
It's like imagine if something so like imagine Doyle isn't killed. Like what if Cooper's like Case, get Doyle on when they're on Miller's planet, and then Anne Hathaway dies. Okay, now your plan B is no longer an option.
Yeah.
yeah. All of it rode on a single person.
Yeah.
What?
I agree with you. That is a part of the film that I just
So
choose to-
Coop probably should have been the only dude on the. On the
probably
mission. Yeah.
right. Probably
Yeah. Yeah. That's an even better point. Like,
especially because like him piloting is helpful, but like Case and Tars both pilot.
Yeah.
Like, they're both.
yeah, it does seem weird to me that they needed Coop at all because they do all of the things that he does to a excruciatingly detailed level.
I think part of the reason they need him is because they kind of play up the fact that like he can do stuff he'll think in a way a machine won't, because he's like the only time I ever failed is when a machine took the controls.
Yeah.
And so I think they feel like they need him, and obviously this movie sucks if it's a crew of 4 women and two robots. I don't want to watch this. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I love Cooper's character and he makes this movie.
Although
but I
if one
agree
of
with
them
you.
is Frances McDormand, I think I would still enjoy this just as much.
or if it's just Florence Pugh.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's Florence
Oh my
Pugh.
gosh,
Yeah.
can you imagine? Oh yeah, okay. Well, we'll have to put together our.
How
super
old
crew.
was Florence Pugh
Yeah.
when this came
Right.
out? Just like
Yeah.
17 or something.
Oh my God.
I mean, either way, we got to put together our super
Why
crew
isn't
to
Florence
fly.
Pugh playing older Murph?
Yeah,
That's what I want
Yeah,
to know.
exactly.
Right.
That is, she is totally within her range.
Right. So yeah, but I totally agree with you. It's like if something happened, like she should never leave the ship. Then, like she should never gone to Miller's planet. She shouldn't go to Man's planet until
Yeah.
they know it's safe. Like everything rides on her ability to be the only one who can reproduce and gestate these embryos.
They should have then they should also, if they're not going to do that, they should have science set up in such a way that they have like artificial wombs.
Yeah,
'Cause
eggs.
Yeah.
Which is not like that crazy.
Yeah,
that's
no, it's not.
That's not a technology that will never exist. That is something that could very well happen in my lifetime.
Yeah,
like
100. I mean, I'm the same age as you, so it's probably possible in my lifetime
Yeah,
too.
dude.
But like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Probably not mine. I'm a little bit more unhealthy than you.
no, you're-
you like to live on the edge.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. It's like either set up some kind of technology that allows you to artificially gestate or have another woman on the crew, because it really doesn't make any sense that she's the only one.
Yeah.
That's again, that's a nitpick, and it's not what the movie's about. The movie is not about colonizing or
It's about adventure and love, dude.
yeah, it's not about it. So that's why I was fine to kind of like let that go by the wayside, even though it is a problem. It's not a plot hole. It's just a problem that
It's a tiny plot.
that practical NASA would have never done.
Yeah.
They would
Yeah.
have never sent just one woman into space. So anyways, we'll move on from that.
Yeah. What's the future of the human race? Who knows?
Yeah.
Not our problem.
We're just doing this for fun.
So I like that now Anne Hathaway is kind of given Dr. Brand's given Coop kind of permission to like, hey, we're going to settle up here on Man's planet and then you can take off. And so now it's just all about setting things up. And I love Cooper's interaction with Dr. Mann. He's like, okay, show me the next site we have to go. Like you need to have plenty of space for the lab. Where are we going to go? And Matt Damon's like, well, I don't think the storm's probably going to mess this up. So we can't go now. He's like, no, the storm's fine. He's like, well, do you have your communicator? He's like, yep, got it. Well, is it charged? He's like, yes. Cooper's like, yes, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Like I have shit to do. And Mann is doing everything he can to like kind of scheme and figure out like, he's so dishonest in these scenes, but it's kind of like I think it's subtle enough that you can tell like something's off.
Like something's a little sketchy with him, but
Yeah.
it's not.
But you
It could
don't
just
know.
because like he's so worried he has to interact with humans or something. Like,
Yeah.
there's always
Yeah.
like excuses you can make in your brain at this
Yeah.
point.
But I
Or
think
that he
Because
knows
it's not
the
too
planet
obvious.
better.
Yeah.
and so that's when you get to they go off and he has this kind of bit of dialogue. He's like, oh, like you know what science shows that people will see when they die? It's like their family or whatever, and it just plays more into. And Calvin just rolled his eyes. And I get that you probably don't need that dialogue in there. It's already so saturated in the movie that you don't need it.
Well, not only that, but it's just like, okay, it's just he said like, okay, so Matt Damon's gonna try and kill Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
gonna happen in the next 5 minutes. So.
Yeah.
And it does.
Yeah.
I love that he just like lets Cooper walk a little bit ahead, takes out the communicator and like throws it, and then now they're
Cooper's
fighting.
like, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's so caught off guard by it. But I
Yeah.
think the audience, and that's something that the audience gets that like the characters don't get. You get kind of the ominous build of the score during his scenes
Yep.
with Dr. Mann. And so you know something's coming because the score builds to it. These characters don't have that. Like, so it didn't, I wasn't shocked by like Matthew McConaughey's surprise, by Cooper's surprise that this was happening to him. That seemed to fit in the scene. What do you guys think about the fight? I love the part where Mann is trying to crack.
You have
Cooper's
50-50
helmet?
chance of dying yourself. That's the best chance I've had in years.
I
dude.
love that.
That's
I
a
love that
great
dialogue.
line.
Love
Yeah.
it. And I can totally see that being a real line that someone actually
Yeah,
said.
I see it on Matt Damon's face. Like he stops, like he thinks about it for like half of a second, and then he
Yeah.
delivers his response, and it's just like, yeah, fuck it, that's the best I've ever had. So
Cooper's so great in that scene too, because he's like, stop. Because
Yeah.
he like has him kind of held down. He's like, what are you doing? Like, stop.
which is like I mean, if you've ever been in a fight before, like that happens. Like when
Yeah.
you don't want to be in a fight, you're like, dude, what are you doing this
Yeah.
for? Like,
Like I said, like everything is so well acted in this movie. Like
yeah,
he admits he's like I thought I could be brave. He's like, but I knew as soon as I landed there was nothing here.
yeah.
And he's like, I was gonna die. And he's like, I resisted for years. And then he presses the button to be like, come and get me.
Yep.
yeah.
And it's just
Which
this
is like
great.
so like the one film like where you see where like Matt Damon's not likable, but he's at that point he's relatable. Like
Right.
how many of us would not do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being
And that's what
alone, facing death, you have nothing.
Yeah, he's a very human character. It's something I absolutely believe that
When
a
he
lot of
says,
people
like,
are going to struggle.
I
with
didn't
the
even
same
set a
thing.
wake up time and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
I would fucking do the same thing, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would call on people to come save me because it's kind of fucked up.
It's hard to. But
it's hard to say that I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But he's like, don't judge me, Coop. Very few people have ever been in my situation.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, man, he's fucking right, dude.
Yeah.
Like, that's tough. That's very, very tough.
That's why I think everything in this scene is so believable.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, they're fighting on some glacier.
I think you have two of the best actors on the planet doing one of the best scenes they've each done. So
just smearing their acting talent all over the screen for our pleasure. It's so
wrestling
good.
around with each other
in a
spaces.
sci-fi film.
Yeah.
So now Cooper's helmet's cracked, and also we've realized now that like all the data he has is faked, and at the same time Romilly is trying to access Kip,
Man.
and oh my god, the score gets so good here. It's just like this. It's very
Makes me
quick and-
anxious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then there's one kind of criticism I have is that if it does do that, you haven't created a compelling enough film. Generally speaking, that's the way I like to approach the language of film. I think you can explore all of these emotions through the frame. You don't need the music, but music for me is such a big part of like my own personal emotional expression that I have a hard time not getting caught up in all of it.
right.
So there's me as critic, as academic and film artist, and there's me as regular person, emotional and so drawn to music and rhythm, and films that are able to blend those in ways that aren't obstructive. They don't get in the way of each other. They mean that much more.
I am Sam.
Yeah, exactly.
Tenet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And The Fountain does it a lot, really too, but I still love it for a lot of other reasons. So
I disagree with the Fountain. I think that score.
it's all of the elements kind of running into each other is what I'm saying. Like the music is big and loud in some places, and it tries to carry emotion that isn't really there.
Can I ask you? Do you think the score for this is better than the score for Fountain? The Fountain. Put your bias to the side, because I know it's your favorite. Which score matches and amplifies its film better?
On the record?
On record, Calvin.
You're
We have
recorded.
microphones in front of our faces.
Just say it. Say that I'm
I
right.
don't know. I think the overall score is better for The Fountain, but the specific phrase, that building and the stay thing,
Oh,
it's haunting. It's saddening. It creates such a well of emotion that it's hard not to get sucked into. So the overall score, I say, for The Fountain is better, has a more special place in my heart. But I do think
I said put your bias to the side.
yeah, but I can't
Yeah.
because emotion, like music is emotion. How do you
I guess that's true.
tangle
Because
that?
if you ask me the same question, I would just say Interstellar right off the bat.
Yeah.
Even though I think the score for The Fountain is great, and when we talked about that movie, it was just how purposeful everything was in that movie, and the score fits every scene so well, and so it would be it is a tough choice, I guess, but
Yeah.
I know I'm picking Interstellar every time
Yeah.
because again, I can't put my bias to the side either. So
brighter moments, I think, for Interstellar, higher things, but the overall score for Fountain is better for me.
what do you think, Jaden?
I like Under the Skin score.
Whoa, okay,
Have you guys seen Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
yeah,
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So like when he's talking about how he's like, it's not music, it's just ominous tones. I love it when that's in movies. Like
Yeah,
it makes me feel a lot. And
yeah, like
I've said
Bavarian
before,
music.
like I do love the score in Bavarian. And it's just because like if I can't notice it, really, I think that is huge to me because I don't want it to be a distraction.
yeah.
I think it works different in Interstellar because at first I was a little bit frustrated because it's so loud. But I mean, especially the docking scene that's about to come up that we're
Yeah.
about to talk about. I mean, it's amazing the way it plays. It gives me goosebumps because the music.
I'm telling you, that's
Like-
a scene was
Like I'm
saying,
getting like a
edge of my
little
seat,
jacked
yeah.
up right
Yeah,
now
yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
But
This whole
yeah.
episode for me, this whole
Yeah.
episode is just building to that scene.
Yeah.
Like,
And so I'm a big fan of like very subtle. Not I don't want to even notice it. Basically,
I'm surprised that that's a surprise pick to me because Under the Skin is a stark, minimalist,
very minimalist
score.
I would say Midsummer, but we haven't talked about it yet. So
Yeah. Okay.
doesn't count.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry. Back to Dr. Man and.
Every time you say Dr. Man, dude, I just laugh. It's a weird
I think
Why
I think it's actually meant to be like an archetype. You know,
Yeah.
this is man, the nature of man.
I think so too,
And
because like the way he reacts is, I'm gonna be noble, but never in my mind did I not think it was gonna be my planet.
Yeah.
Which is, if I was in that situation, you're
I
damn
love
right.
that.
I'm thinking.
I love that line.
Yeah.
I love that line.
Yeah.
I think also
Yeah.
a great thing about his character is just it's such a subversion of like the hero archetype because that's how he's portrayed is this very noble, selfless man who's going to go out and do something.
That's what everyone thinks of him.
Yeah, it's like he's going to forego his own mortality. He's gonna carry out this mission that then all of a sudden he doesn't have the courage to go through.
Yeah.
And he's going to do it in a way that is just like betraying the very few people that are even around him.
Yeah, consumed
Ooh.
by hubris instead.
Went across the fucking universe,
Yeah,
like to be like
to get him,
fuck you.
and he's betraying them. Yeah, it's
Like all this and like the whole thing about him like trying to fucking like kill him and stuff and leave him there. Like I was just like, dude, hey, I fucked up. I got real scared. Can I just go with you to the next planet? I'd just be honest. Like,
Yeah.
like you're here already. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you're gonna leave me here? All right, I guess that's what was gonna happen anyways. And then maybe I'll try and sabotage you. But,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I just
You think about it like-
it's such a subversion because he immediately jumps to betrayal.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like all of humanity's resources to save a selfish man consumed by his own hubris.
Right.
Unreal.
Yeah.
And that's who we are. And yet
Yeah, that's just a very human thing to kind of do.
And the way he talks about the survival instinct and all of that, it just I'm like, yep, hitting the nail right on the head.
Yeah.
man.
Yep.
I love when he's-
but I love how the film does move to the brighter parts of humanity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you need that. You need that contrast in order for the good parts to matter more.
You can't have the yin without the yang, man.
Yeah, you need
it.
you need to have the worst parts of humanity in order to experience the best parts of
Perfectly
humanity.
balanced as all things should be.
Dude, Thanos, man.
Yeah.
So I want to talk now about this is where the marooning is happening now. Like Dr. Man has gotten into the ship, he's leaving him, and now Dr. Bran and Coop and Tarzan Case are in the next ship trying to follow up, but Man's got a good lead start on them, and I love that Dr. Bran says like he'd maroon us, like a question. He's like Cooper's like he is marooning us.
Yeah, it's a great line.
Yeah. And again, that just speaks to just how well Matthew McConaughey can deliver lines. Like,
Well, Matthew McConaughey might be the best deliverer in history. Like if he
Might
brought
be.
me a pizza, like,
yeah, dude.
I'm like,
Yeah,
man,
here you
that's
go,
all right, all
Slick.
right, all right, dude.
Yeah. Here you go, Slick.
It's like he just looks at you. He's like, "This is pepperoni."
I open up, it's like sausage. I'm like, I don't even care.
I
right,
believe you.
dude. Yeah.
And this is what builds up to, in my opinion, this is the climax of the film, which is unfortunate that it kind of takes place. It's towards the end, but it's sort of still in like kind of this middle act of the movie. I think it's like the end of the middle act, but this is the culmination of the score. It's the culmination of tension. It's the culmination of Cooper's skill as a pilot.
Getting goosebumps. Right now.
It's a culmination of kind of this new relationship that Brand and Cooper have formed, where now she trusts him to do everything. It's Tars, it's Case, like carrying out these duties that they have on board the ship. It's this amazing scene. Man is going to dock with the ship, but he doesn't realize that the kind of the docking sequence has been overridden. And it's a great little bit of line where Matthew McConaughey is like, "Does he know the docking sequence?" And he's like, "Not since Tars disabled it." And he's like, "I guess your trust setting was higher than mine."
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
you know, he asked him, he's like, what's your trust setting?
He's like,
Lower
apparently-
than yours.
yeah,
apparently
lower than
apparently.
yours, yeah.
And I love that, like, that's why the Tars and Case are, like, to me, are real characters in this, because they play a role in what is essentially the climax of the film.
Yeah, like human feeling characters,
Yeah.
not just like plot devices or, you know, it's not like C-3PO is a character, but deeply uninteresting.
R2D2 is way more interesting than him.
Yeah, and
He
I
doesn't
don't,
have any-
I don't know about that, but like as an archetype, I suppose he's more interesting than C-3PO.
R2D2 in at least the prequel trilogy is very fantastic.
But I think the way that we're all wrapped up in the person Matt Damon is being like a good character, a good person. We like seeing him in movies. I think Cooper and Dr. Brand kind of get wrapped up in that same sort of cloth of they have so much reverence for Dr. Mann that like there's no way he'd betray them. But these kind of more analytical machines are able to kind of like they sense something that the rest of your crew isn't even sensing, and so that's why they go ahead and disable the like the docking sequence. And I just love that. Like I mentioned earlier, when Doyle is docking the ship early on, this is when you first get into space. This is the same musical theme picks up when Dr. Mann is docking. The cabin decompresses because he hasn't achieved a perfect lock.
I love that scene on the outside of the ship when it's trying to lock on.
The clamps are coming up.
And it just keeps going back and forth, back and forth.
And that's another example of like the cameras being in a place that would be practical for like the actual crew to see.
Obviously the absence of sound when they have in space in this movie is amazing because it'll be intense and then quiet.
Yeah, and
I'm gonna gush about this scene. So if you guys need to cut me off and be like,
no,
shut
it's
the
cool
fuck up,
because like
I gush over this scene. I love this scene.
To me, this is by far the best scene in the movie.
It's the climax.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And like everything about it is like if I black out, take control. Like every little detail in the scene is
which to
fantastic.
me it builds to like the trust that Cooper now has with these machines he's with, because he said before, he's like, the only time I ever failed is when a machine took over.
Yeah.
And so now he's saying if I black out, take the stick. Yeah. And I love that. It's just a little kind of it could be considered like a throwaway line, but I love that he says it because it kind of builds it enhances kind of this perception we have of the trust that
this relationship development has gone on between him and the machines throughout the movie.
Yeah. And I do like the how the music cut out here versus the video call.
Yeah, I feel like it's very different.
It's different for practical reasons too, because when it explodes, all of the air gets sucked out and everything depressurizes. So there's no sound. There wouldn't be any sound. That's why you don't hear the explosion. And I love that. And I also love like my favorite line is actually, at least here, I don't have a lot of favorite lines in this film because that's not the point. But he was talking about, I do this for all of humanity. There is a moment, and then he explodes.
Yeah, that part's great. Yeah,
like melodramatic. It was like it was leading to melodramatic, and it was like, haha.
Okay,
gotcha.
You're probably like, you're probably thankful, like, oh god, I'm glad that speech didn't go any further.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, do we need more? Like back then, I don't think I was as worried about it, and especially first time through, you're caught up a little bit more than you are the second, third, fifth times through.
You guys had seen this around its release, right?
I actually went and saw it in IMAX with. I went with Michael. I went to high school with, and
shout out Michael.
Yeah, we were super high nerdy buddies back in the day, and so we were like, "Oh, let's go watch this. It's supposed to be like real science." And we were just sitting there gushing, like, "Oh my gosh,
right?
Time dilation,
right?
Fourth and fifth dimensions, black holes." Yeah.
That was like for the first time on shrooms in my basement. So
wow,
yeah, it was crazy.
Oh my god,
that's an exciting way to.
I can only imagine.
It was like fucking wild. Dude.
I can only imagine when you got to the Tesseract, like what you were seeing,
dude. Like,
the reason I asked,
it got a little bit hard to pay attention to. I had to like watch it a couple days later. Like, hey, what the fuck did I see here? Like,
the reason I ask is when we talked about the fountain, Jane and I had not seen it before, so that was like our first go at it. Which I think is kind of to the detriment of that episode. It would have been nice if I had more to talk about. I think
I love seeing the growth and realization. This detail. I remember something about that, and like how it just built, and like that's
right.
If everyone takes that type of attitude to all of the movies that they see, then they'll slowly start to see what we're talking about and how. This is something that I've developed in myself to see in films. It's not something that I'm necessarily better at than other people because I'm smarter or because I went to school for it. It's something that you have to learn at.
Yeah, people are capable of knowledge if you want it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just wondered what you, because I watch this movie several times a year. I love this film, and I just wasn't sure how, if you were greenhorns going into this. I knew Jane had seen it a couple times. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I've seen this. Is probably like I watched it for the second time this week today. I've probably seen this movie around 10 times.
Okay.
Yeah, so I haven't seen.
I think we have a lot more
times
of the movies we've added to like our favorites group. I think this is the one we have the most familiarity with.
Yeah.
As far as a group, because Up was another one I'd seen it for the first time prior to doing our podcast on it.
It blows my mind that you've not seen that one.
Yeah, I was so uninterested in that movie.
It's crazy that my favorite movie His favorite kind of movies have changed so much since this podcast started. Because
I'm excited.
Now, what I would consider one of my favorite movies is very, very different than that.
It'd be good to revisit, like not revisit, but like redo this segment and do some more favorites later on. But okay, we cut off like the best part of the movie, I think. I love the perspective of it because the Endurance looks like it's stable, and the ship that they're going to dock with is the one that's spinning because it's from the perspective of the Endurance. Yeah. And I think they do a lot of fun camera angles at that because then there's different shots of them in the ship looking up at the Endurance, and the Endurance is the one that's spinning now. And it's very fun way to use like these different camera angles to give you a different idea, a different perspective on like what's happening right now.
So they do the same thing earlier in the movie when they're leaving Earth and they're spinning, and then they look back at it and the Earth is spinning.
That's it. Yeah, because they start up like the spin to like simulate or have gravity inside the ship. Like kind of inertia build up in it
to the actual models too, and then I think that's it lends the fact that they went with the Maxitures is why you get these style choices. I can only imagine what this would look like in CGI if the whole thing was like that. I don't think that you would get the same type of camera angles or perspectives. I don't think that I think it's a choice that came out of the practicality of shooting something like this rather than a specific design choice going in. Like I think they might have storyboarded it once they knew where the cameras were going to go. If you had just storyboarded this out before you knew how you were going to shoot it, I think it would have looked very different.
I believe there's maybe a different vision for this scene early on, like when they're describing it and they're going through the screenplay and the script and figuring out how it's going to look.
Yeah.
But then once they kind of establish how the cameras are on these ships and these modules, I think it just lends itself to this scene so much. But yeah. Okay. So I love this scene. It's my favorite scene ever put to film. Do you guys love this scene too, or what would you change? What would you do differently? Do you think what do you think of it? I guess
it's wonderful. I just don't think that it compares to any of the black hole shots for a number of reasons. The fact that they were able to render a black hole on film is just an amazing technical feat, and they actually like 3 white papers came out of this because they started to learn a little bit of the physics of rotating black holes, and so the fact that art inspired real life science that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, these are my two loves, physics and film coming together at the same time with really great music, which is like,
actually, I'm shocked this isn't your favorite movie. It seems like exactly up your alley.
It is, but I love it, but there are things that I think that it suffers at. I don't think it's.
That's fair.
You'll get my final score here in a little bit, but
yeah. So what do you think, Jaden? And I'm sorry, we're lingering so much on this scene. I just can't help it because it's by far my favorite
scene in the movie. I don't think I do like the black hole scene. I do think I like the wormhole scene a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is my favorite scene in the movie. I think it makes me feel the most out of anything in the movie, as far as besides this like pure like emotion, like angst and just like I'm like on the edge of my seat. Like I get goosebumps just even talking about it.
Yeah, this is
the score plays well with it. Scene. It gets me jacked up, dude. Honestly, like I stand up watching this scene. Like, oh my god, like I've seen it 10 times. Like, what's gonna happen? Like,
I feel the same way. It's like I know what's gonna happen, and I still like lean forward. I'm like, are they gonna dock? Like, is it gonna happen? Like, I get so excited.
Yeah, this is my favorite scene in the movie.
Okay, yeah, and we can move on from it now.
Okay,
so what I do like at the end of the scene, you're kind of big. They end up docking, and it works out, and then because Brand is like Dr. Brand's passed out because the G-force is so high.
I love that. You just all listen to your arm fly up.
When I first watched the movie, I didn't know what that was about. She just kind of puts her arms up, and I thought she was doing like when you're on a roller coaster, you put your hands up. And I know that's so silly that I thought that, but like I wasn't like, I was so more engrossed in like just the sound of this and like what's actually occurring. When it cut to her and she did that, I didn't understand what was happening the first time I saw it. And then on further viewings, it's like, oh, she passed out, because then there's another scene where she kind of wakes up. Once they kind of slow down the rotation, and I was like, oh, I get it. But the first time I watched it, I was just so engrossed in like what was happening that like cutting to her was kind of like, it seemed almost out of place. I was like, oh, show the ship spinning more. Like, So I actually I thought it's so goofy. I thought she was doing a roller coaster thing. It's so goofy.
Yeah, like, well, if this is the end.
Yeah, I love what she says.
Might as
Though,
well
like,
have some fun.
Yeah.
so they slow the rotation and they push out of Dr. Mann's planet's orbit, and she starts laughing. I think that's what you're talking about. She has like this kind of genuine like kind of chuckle about like what's going on.
Yeah.
That they somehow not only did they survive, they somehow salvaged the endurance out of this whole thing.
The entire hope of humanity, not only themselves even.
Yeah, and I love Matthew McConaughey's. He's like, and for our next trick, like I just, I love kind of the. It's such an intense moment, and then it's like its backdrop to that is this like nice fun chuckle like about what just how crazy what they just went through is, and all they can do is kind of laugh about it. And again, I think it speaks more to that kind of trust in building the relationship that Brand and Cooper have now. It's like, you know, they have like banter now. Whereas before they were kind of at odds, and like now they have banter, and I think it emphasizes this kind of growth in their relationship, and I love that part at the end. And then they check the ship, find out like all the embryos are still viable, like the backup generator came on, they're good to go, and they're kind of trying to formulate a plan on how do they get to Edmund's planet. There's a problem; they don't have enough fuel to get there on their own, so they're going to have to fly close to Gargantua basically to get a gravitational slingshot into Edmund's planet.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna add a ton of years to their trip. And at this point, I think it shows growth in Coop's character too, because now it's like what's more important now is like we need to accomplish the mission, and they're gonna add a lot of time, and so it's like it's not like he's not concerned with seeing Murph anymore, but it's like it's now
he knows now it's not even
He's certainly
possible.
not concerned with seeing Tom.
Yeah, which is sad. Because I thought first of all, I think Timothy Chalamet does a good job playing Tom,
Yeah.
and then I think Casey Affleck does a good job playing Tom. So
I think Casey Affleck does a Casey Affleck job of playing Tom.
Yeah.
I like Casey Affleck.
Perfectly expendable.
Yep.
Oh,
I agree.
I think he's fine. He has a really good line where he tells Murph, he's like, "Get out." He's like, "Never come back." I think that's like one of my favorite scenes. I like that part a lot.
I
I
hate
like
that
it when he
scene so
punches
much.
Topher Grace.
Yeah, I like that too.
So now I want to talk about, now that we've gone through the docking scene, that whole kind of sequence is almost interspliced with scenes back on Earth,
Yeah.
where Murph is trying to convince Tom's family to leave the farm. She rediscovers the watch. You find out that
She doesn't rediscover the watch yet, because
Right.
that is intercut with
Right.
him in the Tesseract.
Right. But there's still like this, like,
But it's leading up to it. And all of it is them, that tension back on Earth.
right.
Um,
Do you think that works to have it
No.
placed within it? I think it could
I
come
mean-
after, and it would have been just the same.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been better, and it would have delivered itself in the same way.
Yeah, it was actually, I found it kind of annoying. Like, this is, this is, like you were saying, it's one of the it's the greatest scene in the film. It's one of the great scenes, like, in cinema, especially.
You keep cutting away from it.
Yeah, you keep going to a part that shouldn't be in the film at all. It's deeply uninteresting and nowhere near the type of spectacle that this is.
I'm fine with it being in the film and just edit it in a different way. Like, I think that they were worried that no one's going to be interested in all the Earth stuff if we don't also have space stuff in between it. And so it's like, okay, so we need to have this cut with like interesting space
That's
things.
probably a good point.
And so that's why I think there's a healthy amount of switching between the two, kind of your A plot and your B plot.
Yeah. I
It's
think that
because
should
I
have
think
been your
they're-
clue that
Yeah.
your B plot needs to be cut.
Yeah, dude, you might be right. I mean, I think it all works, but I do get your sentiment. I think it's like just
Yeah, we've gotten to the whole point of the film, Interstellar. Let's go back to Kansas.
so. I think now we're arriving at where they're gonna do the slingshot around the black hole. They're gonna make their way to Dr. Edmund's planet. I think that's a good way to kind of end this act, because I think once you move on to the black hole and what takes place within it, and what goes on with Dr. Brand and Coop's character, the tone of the movie shifts at this point. So I'm okay with like this being kind of the end of our like second act. Do you guys have anything else to add to the end of this?
Nope.
Yeah, and it's weird that you say the end of the second act, because it's really the end of Coop's second act, because at the whole time we still are cutting back to adult Murph.
Yeah.
So it's a weird kind of thing to change your tone while at the same time in another scene that's continuing simultaneously, that tone hasn't changed. But I agree as far as is this changing for Coop.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we'll move on to the third part, which is I think kind of what I said, like what's takes place with the black hole, kind of the continuation of Murph's character, the continuation of Cooper's character, and Dr. Brand. All right, and with that, we're going to close this one out. Hope you enjoyed part 2 of our review of Interstellar, and hope you guys join us for part 3. I'm looking forward to closing this one out. And thanks again for listening to Now This Is Podcasting.